All right, you guys. So what I'm going to do here is walk you guys through getting our finished sculpt of our body for our character out of ZBrush and ready to get going into Maya so we can start retopologizing. So I'm going to try to break up this recording in a few different steps. The first thing we're going to talk about here is just some general model prep within ZBrush before we actually export it. So there's a couple things we want to be aware of. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is most of you, up until now, have been modeling or sculpting your character with the arms primarily down. And I mean like down, when I say down, I mean like at the side of the body. Some of that is due to the way your design is, you drew it like that. And also you guys saw myself kind of sculpting with the arms down. Now, I do that typically just to kind of get a good sense of where the arms are going to lie down along the side of the body, just to kind of make sure I'm getting the proper arm length and that kind of good stuff. But as I'm preparing to do as I'm preparing to retopologize the character, we do want to be mindful to raise the arms a bit. Now here you can see that I have the character at an A pose. This is what we call an A pose here, by the way. The other scenario is a T pose, where the arms would be raised higher up and essentially being completely parallel to the ground. Now, it doesn't matter which one you do, as long as you're creating that negative space in between the arm and the body and the torso. Okay, so we're basically looking for something along those lines right there. Now, the other thing that I'm going to show you guys in this mesh before I take it out is there's a few different things going on. If I kind of go into show the wireframe here, I still have separate pieces. My hands are separate, my feet are separate, the body's separate, the head is separate. Now, that's most likely going to be the case with all of your guys' work, at least from what I remember seeing from everybody. Everyone's been working the same exact way, which is good. So what we're going to do here is talk about how to combine the relative components. And when I say relative, I mean we just want only what's made up of the skin. So if you have hair, we're going to turn the hair off. If you have eyes in here, we're going to turn that off. So essentially, this is all you want visible. You just want a head, body, and any extremities, you know, hands, feet, all that good stuff. Okay, now, once we have this in place, and once you have your model appropriately posed in a neutral, symmetrical way, like you see here, we're going to go ahead and go up to down here in our subtool palette where you see merge. So you'll see my cursor just kind of hovering over it here. Now, we've been doing a lot of merge down, and when you guys see me working with your files, I tend to do a lot of merge visible, and that creates a new subtool, right? So I'm going to do that right now with everything that's visible that just composes your body. So make sure you have nothing else turned on. No hair, no clothing, no nothing, no eyes. We're just going to go down here, and where you see merge visible, I'm going to go ahead and hit that button. And what you're going to notice is it's going to create essentially another subtool in my tools palette right here. So this is our original with all the separate components. And once I hit merge visible, it creates this one right here, right? So the good thing about this, if I hit Shift F, you'll see that everything is still there as far as like the separate components. It's just they're combined into one, but you can see clearly that the poly groups still remain for the head, body, and a few other things here. Okay, so now that that's done, now if I hover over the actual tool right here, the actual subtool in my subtool palette, you'll notice that the resolution that gets displayed, what is this at right now? I think 488,000 and some change as far as polygons. Like that's pretty high to take into Maya to do some retopology. So what we're going to do is a process called decimation, which is essentially taking this same mesh, decimating it down to a much more manageable number of polygons, and then we're going to export that. Okay, so the first thing, let's go ahead and duplicate this. So we have essentially a copy, a direct copy of our tool. And with either one selected, it doesn't really matter. We just want to preserve the original one just for comparison's sake. So let's go ahead and select the top one. Now I'm going to go into my Z plugin menu. And down here, right toward the middle where you see Decimation Master, go ahead and click on that menu. And you're going to see a few different things happening here. Now, one thing I want to make clear here is we're going to keep this very, very simple. So I want you to just kind of bypass everything else you see. All of these other buttons, we're really just going to do a function right here in the pre-process area, and then finally right here as well. Okay, so first things first, since we have the actual subtool selected, and you know what, I'm going to actually jump to a standard UI here. There we go. So let's go back over there, Z plugin, Decimation Master. We're going to go ahead and do a pre-process current. Okay, so pre-process current. Let's go ahead and hit that button, and you'll see that ZBrush is basically thinking right up here at the top. You can see the progress line. So it's just about done. What that's essentially doing is kind of analyzing just all the form and all the shapes of the actual model. And now that we've done that, let's go and come back over here to where we essentially have these percentage numbers right here. So right here where you see 20% of decimation, we're going to crank that all the way up to 100, just so we get an accurate poly count here of what it wants to do. Once you crank that up to 100, now we're going to start sliding it down. And the reason we're going to slide it down from 100 is so we can see what number it's given here. Now we want that number to fall somewhere around maybe 100, you know, 100,000 polygons is pretty reasonable. So I'm just dialing it down. So roughly at around 10%. That seems pretty good. I'll just leave it there. Now also note, it doesn't have to be exact. So you don't have to make this number any precise calculation. Just kind of gauge it and eyeball this number here. So I'm going to go ahead and set that, leave it alone. And now what I'm going to do is once that's set, I'm going to hit Decimate Current. And I'm going to get a new mesh out of this. If I hit Shift F right now, and I'm going to isolate this, you'll see that what it basically gives me is a completely stripped down triangulated mesh, okay? But this mesh is very true to the form, all right? So if we just look at the model as is, and I'll just kind of toggle between these for a second. Let me actually assign a color and a material to this just to make this nice. I'm going to turn this on for a second. Select that color, go back over here. Color fill object. Okay. So now here is my decimated mesh. You can see it's triangulated. Here is my non-decimated mesh, which subdivided all the way is like almost 500,000 polys, right? So I'm going to turn off the wireframe and I'm going to just toggle between the two. And the one that's decimated has no color on the face, of course. So you can see that the form is pretty much identical, which is really, really nice. Much lower poly count, albeit it's all triangulated. So this, of course, is not a production model by any sense of the word, but it is an accurate representation of what we've sculpted. So now that we have this, it's time to basically take this out of ZBrush and get it ready for Maya. So the next step, once we have this, make sure you have the decimated version selected. We're going to go simply to our tool menu where you see export. I'm going to hit export. And let's just dump this anywhere. In this case, I'll go ahead and place it on my desktop. And we'll call this Batman Body. Hit save. And just like that, this model has been exported. Okay? All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right here, and we'll pick up in Maya. Okay.